Network Entertainment.
And welcome to my podcast, the RJ Ledesma Podcast. In my podcast, I like to speak to business leaders and entrepreneurs to learn more about how they think about doing business. What are their success secrets? Can we replicate those in our own businesses? And more importantly, what business opportunities do they see emerging in the near future? And with me right now is a truly inspirational female entrepreneurs. So proud to always have female entrepreneurs because they're great examples as well for my daughter who's growing up and wants to be an entrepreneur. Please welcome Miss Maria Sucgang, co-founder and CEO of Remotify. Welcome. Thanks so much for joining us, Maria.
Thanks so much for having me, RJ.
And before you start, I just want to humble brag about you already, so you don't have to brag yourself. No. So first of all, Remotify, in its second year of doing business, is a certified great place to work in 2022. They were also best in diversity in inclusion in 2023 by Outsource Accelerator. At the same time, Remotify was selected to represent the Philippines at the Coalition Conference in Toronto, one of 4 Philippine startups to do so. And finally, the one I am proudest about is that she won in the Business Manual Startup Pitch by leaps and bounds. They were really something the judges really saw as a great startup. And having said it, Maria, maybe you want to greet people first and say hi to the people listening to you?
Thank you. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening in to RJ's podcast. And again, thanks for having me. Really a pleasure meeting you at the Business Manual competition and again here, and also having me at the CEO Awards.
Oh, fantastic. We recently had the CEO Awards. Tell me, what was your experience? I know we brought together, we curated a lot of great awardees to be there, and we also curated the guests who are coming over here. What was your overall experience when you came there?
It was a great experience. It was a night filled with seeing a lot of friends from different sides of the industry. I saw a lot of the top 30 leaders on LinkedIn there. Saw a lot of leaders from the outsourcing industry as well. It was a great experience in such a way that it reminds me of the type of leader I want to be.
Oh, wow.
Right? Like the best leaders on stage were the ones that actually credit their team for the success and really create a lasting impact for the nation.
That's like what, all the time, that's what Eugene Acevedo of RCBC was saying. That really stuck to my mind.
Yeah.
Really great leader as well. Having said that, let's now go into Remotify. Now, I've got listeners who are entrepreneurs and they don't belong all to the startup field. So let's go first into Remotify. And oftentimes when you pitch Remotify as a startup, there's what they call the elevator pitch, right? But you've got to tell investors in about 30 to 45 seconds as you're going up an elevator. And what exactly is Remotify?
Sure. Remotify is an employer of record firm. And what we do is we help international businesses to extend their runway by building remote teams in the Philippines. We've founded it in 2021, fully bootstrapped, and we've grown it to 1.4 MG in GMV. US dollars in GMV in 2024.
What's GMV? So people who might not be familiar with the term, GMV means?
Gross merchandise value, but actually it's not merchandise. It's just the top line revenue, including all the pasahod for all the Filipinos.
Wow.
From the time that we founded Remotify, we've already created about 200 plus jobs around the Philippines. We have had employees spanning the Philippines from Benguet to Sultan Kudarat, 77% of whom are women, all knowledge workers.
Bravo. And what do you mean by knowledge workers for people who might not be familiar? Anong ibig sabihin ng knowledge worker?
Sure. So we typically have accountants, we have software developers, we even have SPED teachers teaching the neurodiverse kids in the US to land jobs in IT and cybersecurity, or to just teach them life skills like making a sandwich, right?
Wow.
We enable freedom by making remote work simple, secure, and sustainable for both international businesses and talents around the Philippines.
I love the explanation and how you're able to break down a couple of things. But, when I was doing the show, several years ago, I would often tell people, my late dad would listen into the show and he goes, I'm not quite sure what they're talking about when it comes to business. And he's an entrepreneur, but it's just that the terminology and the newer business models sort of escape him. If you were to simplify to explain to my late dad, ano bang ibig sabihin? Ano ginagawa sa Remotify? How do you
Sige.
explain that to you? Or maybe even to your mom who's not keen on what you do?
Sige. Siguro, if you are a business owner, negosyante ka, and wala kang registered business sa Pilipinas, paano mo babayaran ng social contributions yung mga tao mo?
Ito yung mga parang foreign business owners to. Oo.
Paano mo mabibigyan ng real kontrata? And at the same time, paano yung mga employees mafe-feel secure sa'yo kung wala kang business dito sa Pilipinas? Ayaw mong mamroblema ng lahat ng tax filing, ayaw mo mamroblema ng kapital. So, pupunta ka sa Remotify para one, kami yung HR ng mga tao mo. Two, kami yung bahala na maging employer of record para merong kontrata yung mga tao mo. And then you only get invoice once a month. We simplify things for you because we know you wanna focus on your business and you don't wanna run through the hassle of dealing with HR, admin work, and people stuff.
So yan yung pain point mo. Yung sinasolve mo pain point dito para sa mga dayuhang negosyante na gustong kumuha ng Pinoy na empleyado.
Na remote workers.
Remote workers.
Pero yung isa pang pain point para maintindihan ng dad mo at mom ko is like, kung nagtatrabaho ka remotely, ang daming Pilipino.
So remotely, ibig sabihin lang remotely, natatrabaho ka
online.
Online.
Wala ka nasa opisina.
Wala ka sa opisina.
Right? And what we found during the pandemic is that a lot of Filipinos working remotely are usually unregistered employees without employers on record. And what that means is, wala kang kontrata, wala kang SSS, PhilHealth, Pag-ibig, pwede ka ma-fire anytime. You can't even get a loan. Paano? Wala kang payslip, wala kang ITR, right? So, how can you even buy a house, get a car, be approved of a loan? Wala. So, paano ka magkakaroon ng freedom and flexibility to work remotely but at the same time have all the rights and privileges of an employee while having HR support in a community that will help you thrive remotely? Yan si Remotify.
Okay. I get Remotify right now. So it's really, it helps two ways. It helps yung mga foreign businesses who need legitimized na dumaan sa HR na employees. That's where they go through. And also for them locally, it benefits them. Kasi ako, at least, you can
secure ako.
Empleyado ako dito. At makukuha yung mga benepisyo ng isang empleyado ng kumpanya.
Correct.
And I can borrow money because I can show my employer's records and everything else because everything is done above board at kayong gumagawa niyan. I see. Now, having said that, I want to go right now into, that I know that you've solved the problem, but I think what's also equally important is to understand how you got to solving itong problem na ito na coming up with this company na for remote workers to become employers of record with foreign companies.
Sure.
So, let's start off with ikaw muna. Because people, they come from different backgrounds, di ba? Hindi naman lahat, may ibang tao dito, nurse na naging entrepreneur. Hindi naman lahat nagsimula sa business management. What was your own background that gave you the seeds to come up with this idea?
Sure. Great question. So I started my career in the outsourcing space, worked with super impressive people. No, it was the early days of outsourcing.
Not to betray your age, but more or less mga early 2000s.
18 pa lang ako so mga 2005 ganun.
I see.
So early 2000s. But then before founding Remote,
And what was your background? You were in college. You were doing
communication arts,
okay.
And then shifted to business administration and operations management.
I see. So yan yung parang naging foundation mo. But it wasn't really business wise, but it was like communication arts, and you got into outsourcing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So outsourcing, in the outsourcing firm, like what I realized there is that really my passion for quality, right? Like and service, right? So that was built there. And then I moved to a direct employment for an in-house research firm. And that research firm is based in Palo Alto, Mountain View, California, Silicon Valley. So what we did was we connected experts from Silicon Valley to hedge fund managers in Wall Street, and we were really at the forefront of research when it came to new technologies. iPad wasn't even launched yet at the time, etc., and cloud computing. So that that gave me the exposure because our CEO then, and it was a pretty flat organization. Our CEO then is still now one of the directors at Google, and I met
Wow.
a lot of my colleagues there are founders themselves, right? Tech founders themselves, and that was what 2009, right? I was already exposed to that. And after that, I moved to a telco tech startup and I worked there for 12 years. It's a super innovative UK based telco tech startup. That's where I met my co founder, Erwin. So I was the global head of service experience there. And what we did was we really built a global mobile network that spanned the world where there's no roaming fees in 160 countries, where
Wow.
we served 10 of the top 12 banks, and we mobile recorded their their phone calls because that's required by regulation. But we were also the same team that helped launch Apple's
eSIM, you were saying? Mm-mm.
eSIM launch, right, globally, and we powered Apple's bootstrapping technology. We serve the coolest brands, Apple, Tesla, Netflix. So I was always running a very lean team, a service team of like about no more than 50 people across the countries where I led. So I had teams in the Philippines, in Hong Kong, and Poland, and Portugal, and in the UK at one point. But we never grew the team to support the growing customers, simply because we were able to design those experiences in such a way that, even when industry standard net promoter score is positive 20, we were scoring at positive 55 at that time, winning a lot of service awards. So we had sticky customers, and we had inspiring service that made that, the business thrived.
Basketball. Now, very interesting. I know that you went through a lot of different experiences. And one of the things that really strikes me over here is that what you learn the most is that if you design a good experience, you don't have to grow your team. You just have to design a very good experience for the customers to gain a lot of traction there. No, um, tell us a bit more about that one. What can you share with entrepreneurs when designing experiences that you gained from your previous employment?
Sure. I think the most important thing is to understand who you are designing it for. Know your customers intimately and design it as if you are the one who's going to experience the problem. If you're not going to solve the problem in an intimate way, you're not going to be able to have a sticky solution, right? So I think that's my tip, and that also led us to being able to have take bold risks, right? Us starting a business such as Remotify, we didn't just blindly take the leap of faith. We designed those experiences before we launched our service. And that's why when we launched the website June 2021, without running any ads, only SEO and a very curated website. Every single word of our website we debated. But that resulted to us closing our first organic client 2 weeks from
Wow, in two
launching.
weeks, that's impressive.
Yeah.
Help me understand. I know that it sounds like, I know the tips are there, but can you give us like sort of like a case study example na talagang you guys, when you design that experience, and how did you gain that customer insight to eventually make sure that this experience is there, that it paid off?
Yeah, I think the reason why we could design it so well is because one, we are designing for two sides. One is for the employees, which we've been before, and one is for the clients, which we've also been because we ran TruePhone from 8 different countries, right? And for example, for me, I only met my team in Portugal every quarter. Or when I set up the team in Hong Kong, yeah, I lived there for 6 months, sure, but most of it I ran remotely. But we were able to build the culture and be able to really work efficiently together, even by not being in the same room, right? So we know that that works. And we understand that as a distributed company, strong systems, strong processes, and strong culture is very important for you to make that work. And so when we're designing from a perspective of a client, we know that as a startup founder, one thing you don't want to be wasting your time on is the wrong hire, is like handling people problems, taking care of payroll, or thinking if your remote team is still engaged with you,
Oo.
right? So those are the things, like, you just want to run your business and you want to have a great team behind you, right? And you as a startup founder, and not a lot of startups and mid-market companies have a big HR organization that would understand the complexities of labor laws in the Philippines, for example, if they're not based here, right? So we've designed for that, but also for the experiences of the employees. If you are an employee, when was the, like, my question is like, for a lot of employees, when was the last time that you felt valued at your
Good job.
workplace,
Yeah.
regardless if it's remote or if it's in the office? When was the last time you felt that you were doing something beyond a task list, that you were doing something bigger than yourself? And if you can take that out of the hearts and minds of people, you're going to have a great business. And what we do at Remotify is really bring together better remote employees and better remote managers who build better businesses, because better businesses create more jobs for a lot of people.
Got
right?
that. Got that. I really love the sort of part of the business philosophy that went into creating the company. So let's get down to the pain point that you were trying to come up with, or the problem that you saw that maybe not other people saw. Tell me about how Remotify came into being.
Sure, sure. So I was solving my own problem.
Oh,
So when I was working, I worked for Truephone at 12 years. It wasn't all remote, but during the pandemic, right, we all had to shift remotely. Prior to that, I already led my teams to work remotely because of the Taal volcano erupting.
oh yes, that's right.
Right? So right before the lockdown. And so during the pandemic, what I realized is that, oh, we eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner with the kids. And then I realized, oh my God, how abnormal my life has been before, because I realized I only saw them over the weekend. I only saw them. And if I'm unlucky, I'd be in Portugal for a month, I'd be in Hong Kong for 6 months, and I would completely miss all of their milestones. And I thought, hey, what if we can, do this more often? And it means that more Filipinos can actually do this, because, if we can do it and not waste 4 hours in traffic. And I had so much time then. I finished a lot of books, a lot of courses, and I still had time for work, and I still had everything, right? So, and then the seed of the idea really came when we thought, okay, if we do this more often, how can we create a workplace that's not an actual place, but anywhere employees feel valued, connected, and cared for? And that's the seed of the idea of Remotify, right? So at that time, like I said, we didn't really jump in blindly, right? So at that time, we continued on, and I worked at Truephone. Erwin then already left Truephone, the telco tech startup, and moved to another employer of record firm as a country manager. And at that time, that's also where we saw the maybe the flaws of how other EORs had been set up, when it's not really designed for the experience of the employees.
So again, EOR means employer of record.
Yes.
And then what were the problems that you saw with other people who didn't have great employer of record backgrounds?
Sure. So what we find generally, no, not just that one company, but generally, a lot of employer of record firm typically go through an aggregator model. What does that mean? So let me give you an example. We have one client that transferred to us because they were with a pretty reputable, like big employer of record in the States. And one of their people in the Philippines, the manager, had an issue with the payroll. Okay. And it took them 3 months before it could get answered. Why? Because that employer of record did not have an entity in the Philippines, and they only partnered with other employer of record and another one that had a partner in the Philippines. And therefore, they aggregated the solution. From the very beginning, strategically, we said we want to go deep in the Philippines, and we will not want to do aggregator models. We want to be able to control the experience of both the employees and the clients, so that we can guarantee that always compliant yung onboarding and offboarding. Hindi yung bigla na lang mafa-fire ang empleyado ng walang rason. Or hindi yung parang kung sino lang na client na like pa-bankrupt na pala, ginawa mo pa. So like due diligence from both ends, right? Because we want to create a much longer lifetime value for the businesses who want to thrive with remote employees, and also the remote employees who want to thrive and have one employer, right? And not everybody, because a lot of people call themselves freelancers kung nagre-remote work, but actually, isa lang ang employer nila. 9 hours sila nagtatrabaho sa isang firm. Well, you're an employee, and you're a misclassified employee if that's the case. You're not given your benefits, but you're an employee, right? And that's what we're solving for. So I think that's the idea that really gave birth to Remotify. For context, like I have somebody very close to me. She used to work for a big marketing firm, and after that, she decided to try her hand at freelancing because mas malaki yung pay. The first client was good, Australian client. She also didn't add benefits, and then another firm offered her the job in the US, and she already upgraded her life and her family's life. And then one day, the client just said, "Hey, I changed my mind." And then that person, the person that's close to me, is out of a job. And because of that, really like stress and all, like, in the end, she got autoimmune disease from all the stress, right? So imagine how many more Filipinos go through that stress of may trabaho pa ba ako bukas. And it's not a guarantee naman, even with real normal employment, you can lose that. But at least you have your severance pay, your notice period, your prorated 13th month pay, or if like if you get pregnant, you have 160 days paid maternity leave. All of these things, like why would you strip somebody off of those rights just because they want the freedom and flexibility of remote work? So that's really the seed of the idea of Remotify.
Hey, his name is Chico Garcia.
And his name is Gino Killiamore.
And together, we are Only Fun.
That's right, for only $12 a month.
But if you're willing to pay, why not? No, we're from a podcast that talks about movies, TV shows. Basically, we do reviews of K-dramas, whatever is on streaming, whatever is on cinemas. We also get to occasionally interview celebrities, actors, directors,
and of course infused with our own witty brand of humor and slice of life.
Wow. I guess we don't infuse a lot.
Check it out.
Got that. And eventually, when you were doing Remotify, what was that one thing that pushed you to finally leave your day job and say, I'm gonna go full-time doing my startup?
Okay. So it was interesting because it was really scary, RJ. And like before I quit, Erwin quit. And that was at the time when we realized, and I was even on bed rest at that time, and I still had 4 months worth of like
Leave.
Afterwards, right? And I said, you know what, you're not being treated properly, and also, this design of the experience at that firm wasn't really all too well. So let's marry our strengths, and we'll let go of 3/4 of our household salary.
Wow,
right?
that's scary.
Yeah, that's super scary. And we bootstrapped the business by selling, took a sale of a house to bootstrap the business. And I still worked at Truephone, so I declared to Truephone that we actually set up the business. And I only left Truephone after a year when I could already pay me a salary.
Ano ibig sabihin na bootstrap sa mga hindi pa nakakaintindi? Anong ibig sabihin na bootstrap?
Like you're surviving from the bootstraps of your shoes. You're making your ends meet. Like kumbaga, kung magsisimula ka ang tao mo, ikaw yung co-founder mo at isang tao, to make sure that you're not splurging on salaries, you're not splurging on laptop, you're not pagkakasyahin mo hanggang mapalaki mo.
At yung pera dyan, pera
ng sarili mo.
Ng sarili mo. Hindi ka kumukuha sa labas.
Correct. Diba? Pinaghirapan mo, like all of our life savings were there, right? So we lost 3/4 of our stable income, but we believe so much in the mission and the vision that, we went all out. And I remember the first Christmas in the business, because diba we registered it in 2021. We went live with our website June. We closed our first client 2 weeks after that. But that Christmas, like wala pa kami masyadong clients. Like we were thinking, oh my God, do we use this like money for like bills or do we invest it in the business? Like inuna pa namin yung pasahod ng tao before the electricity bill. Those kinds of challenges. But later on, a year after incorporating, we were cash flow positive, right?
Wow.
And so just taking that leap of faith, but doing it smartly, but planning around it. Like I said, before we launched our service, we've already created a service blueprint from end-to-end experience of the client, from seeing us online, seeing us on the websites, to offboarding them employees, retaining them, then offboarding to employees. Like, how do you create that culture that even when you're remote working, I mean, the one good thing of us being certified as Great Place to Work is we were able to validate that in the future of work where it is remote, culture is still everything. Even though we've not met most of our employees across the Philippines, where we score the highest is community, intimacy, corporate image, hospitality, and justice. People are scoring at 98 out of 100 for those things, right? Because when you care to design the experiences for the people you serve, that will serve you back. And scaling the experiences that seem to not scale and putting it in tech is what will drive you forward. So that's what we're building now.
And what I understand, just to simplify for the people listening also as well, is the idea that that's what the secret sauce, I guess, of Remotify is. It's designing that experience to create that community. Because number one is the employer of record. That's sort of like the foundation you have to do to get everybody.
The basics of what they need.
The basics
right?
of what you need is there. That solves the very first pain point that you had for both the employer and the employee. So you come here, don't worry, you're all legitimized, you're all okay. And also for the employer, okay, this is easier for me to pay the people. I don't have to worry about Philippine labor laws.
Yeah.
These guys are taking care of it for me. But the second, what emerges is right now, design an experience so that the remote employee, even if he's not with the company, is secure. I guess that's your secret sauce, right? If I'm correct.
And feeling like they belong into a community of remote workers, right? Feeling pride in representing Filipino talents too. Like, how do you invoke that out of a person when you've not met them in person? And that's what we've been able to do. So I'm super proud of every single Filipino that works under the record of Remotify, because we all share that same value set.
Can you explain to me? I'm sure many people are familiar that we send a lot of Filipino OFWs abroad, or people work for us, or we work for other companies abroad from here because we can do remote work. But what in what you've seen so far in your years of working abroad and also here and getting remote workers, what makes the Filipino employees stand out for these foreign companies? Why would they choose us over other countries?
Yeah. So the one thing that serves as well is that we're the second largest outsourcing hub in the world. But the other good thing is that it's like, in a lot of ways, we're like their own. We speak the same language. We watch the same shows. We are the exact replica, but with a culture of care and friendliness, right? I've heard this many, many times. I've never seen a person more resilient than Filipinos. A lot of people get shocked that, you see like flooding house deep, right? 2 stories high. Yet you see a Filipino the next day sweeping the streets like nothing happened, and they're smiling and happy and helping their neighbors. And that's not everywhere. It's like, it's baked in. Our value set are baked in, right? And that's the beauty of working with Filipinos. I actually said that to one of my colleagues in Hong Kong when I lived there, right? Like, you'll never meet another race or another person that would care for your family as much as a Filipino would. And one of the core trait of a Filipino, I guess, is malasakit, right? Like, you care for people as if they were your own, right? And you take consideration for people as if they were your own. So I think that's the beauty of working with Filipinos. But at the same time, from a technical side, right, we churn out 700,000 university graduates per year. We have what 50-60% of them are in IT. We have had the big boys setting up their outsourcing shops here for the longest time. GMAC, JP Morgan, all of these, Citibank, etc. And what that does is that talents actually operate at a caliber, international caliber, at a fraction of the cost, right? And now we can see that, for example, we even have architects who are working for a lighting design firm in the UK, right? Or I mean, somebody from our record, a software developer earning 150,000. Insultan ko darat. Imagine the trickling effect
Yeah,
of
the
that.
multiplier effect, insulted ko
Yeah.
to hire people who are affording this salary.
Correct. In their communities, in their sari-sari stores, in their like really democratizing access to that, not foregoing your employment rights simply because you want the freedom and flexibility to work remotely, right? So,
Wow, fantastic.
and also, like, it reverses brain drain. You don't have to leave the country to be able to, earn decent salaries.
I love that. I love what you're doing because what I'm seeing from you, Remotify isn't just a business for you. It's your why.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Oh.
Definitely.
Now, I know that we talked about the secret sauce, which is design and experience. But again, now for the entrepreneurs, what principles do you want them to follow from what you've learned? That if I was to make design and experience the secret sauce, if we were to break it down, what can you share with entrepreneurs that you won't lose out on sharing on?
So yun nga, like, know your ICP, know your ideal customer profile, know who you're serving for. That's number one. And then be thoughtful in creating those experiences. But number three, it doesn't end with the experience, right? You need to have strong business fundamentals, right? You need to have your vision clearly articulated, because that's a sign of good leadership. Your vision is only as strong as how you could articulate it, so that the people behind you, beside you, and the people that will support you will rally up towards that goal, towards that vision. And then making sure that your processes, like, you're efficient, right? Because you've thought through this design, you're never going to be wasteful, right? Like, a lot of people, like, and I see that with a lot of funded startups, right? Like, okay, they hire like so many people without understanding what they need, right? But how can you be efficient in that? What are the gaps really that your business needs? And what you need now as a startup will not be the same as when you grow, right? And I think that's the best takeaway that I had from helping to grow TruePhone, from operating from 3 countries to serving like 12 countries, from B2B to B2C to B2B, serving the coolest brands in the world, from being able to witness myself how we were able to acquire and merge like 5 different companies and meld them into our own, and expand our business offering. And that's a place, it's really a masterclass for leadership, where I saw 3 different reorgs, great leadership, bad leadership. I've seen how the effect of a good leader or a bad leader. I've seen the effect of, like, if you handle a reorg well with dignity, how you can be able to, still not damage your brand, or making wise decisions. Or even as an employee there, like, because it was big enough that we can learn the best of startup corporate, but small enough that we could call our own shots. I can build products, I can design processes, I can face, for example, a customer in the Netherlands, and just be in a room with them and represent what TruePhone is about, and the service of TruePhone, right? So, like, that is a strong foundation for me learning how the business fundamentals at Remotify should be. Strong reporting, strong processes, strong vision, having the right people in the right seats, and just really having those basics right.
Really great advice for businesses in general. No, thanks so much, and thanks for sharing that as well. The interesting thing lang that we picked up, but people might not have picked up on, but I want to stress again right now is that you really haven't financed the business from the outside. It's still basically bootstrap. Ibig sabihin yan, yung pera pinasok mo, yan yung pera pa pinapaikot mo lang para patakbuhin yung negosyo ninyo. Is that correct?
To a certain extent, because end of last year we got funded by
Fantastic. Congratulations.
MVP's Idea Space, but also we had another investor in a corporate investor in. So we're still racing to finish our seed round, but we're also at the same time we're still running the business with only 6 full-time employees to this day. But we make sure that we focus on strong marketing, strong sales. That way we are a good business, a sustainable business, a profitable business. But the money that we're getting is to accelerate, right? To go deeper in the Philippines and later on replicate that success in other emerging markets.
I see. What's your tip lang with regard to getting investors or bringing in money? What would you like to tell people that you've learned so far?
The same as how you bring in a customer. You don't bring in, like for us, we don't bring it in without due diligence, right? Like we're gonna check if the customer is bankrupt or the employee is with good good standing, good background check. For investors also, like, one, understand their value set, understand if you would like to go the VC route, growth. Some of them would want growth at all costs. Do you share the same values and beliefs? Do you focus on the same industry, same region or same country? But the most important thing is you gotta want the people that you're gonna get money from, because if you grow your business, you want them to win, right? And you wouldn't win if you keep banging heads, right? You may find a lot of allies, but might not be a fit as an investor, or right, just make sure that it's all values based and that you are out there. You understand when you get their money, you have the fiduciary responsibility to return it. It's not money for spending to be bye, sorry, wala na yung pera mo, but to make sure that it returns to them, right? So yeah.
Got that. And then just moving on from this one, we're seeing the growth of Remotify. I'm also sure that you're seeing a lot of opportunities for entrepreneurs out there, because from your perspective, you're seeing remote work, you're seeing growing the provinces, you're seeing all these different things. What are the other business opportunities that you're seeing that maybe other entrepreneurs can take on, given what you're seeing in Remotify? Not necessarily na ipopursue mo yung mga yan, but you're going, what can entrepreneurs do knowing what you know?
Siguro, so my tip is at the start of each year, read macro trends. And the macro trends will dictate to you what will be in the next 5-10 years, right? And what we find is that, for example, at Remotify, we understand that humans and agents will work together soon. And therefore, we need to build the business towards that, where we recognize that the future of work is remote for all kinds of workforce, including agents, including agentic AI, right? And so building towards that. But also at the same time, look at the macro trends. Like if the whole world is aging and the Philippines is actually gonna surpass the average participation rate in the global workforce by 2030, because our median age is 25, where Japan is 49,
That's right.
where the UK is 45, right? Like the world is aging. And therefore, one of the things that might be attractive are, services for the aging people, or automations to help the aging economies, or for example, for outsourcing, right? You outsource to younger populations that speak the language that you speak, or that have the skill sets that you have, etc. In terms of aging, maybe retirement homes, or maybe it's so morbid, but funeral services, right? Like those are trends for in the future. But the biggest trend now is, and hopefully that doesn't get more used and abused, AI, right? But start small. Start thinking, how will you make your team, yourself, your family adapt to that? How will you practice every day to enhance your abilities by using the already available tools? Don't be afraid right? Like, have the growth mindset to learn. The one thing that served me and Erwin well at Remotify is I realized that I don't know everything going into this role as, being the one responsible to execute the vision of the business, right? As the CEO. And what I did was I identified my learning gaps early on. I was very humble to say, I don't know this, I don't know this, I don't know this. And then I designed my learning path. So the first thing I did was I enrolled myself to Founder Institute to understand what it takes to be a startup founder. And then after that, how to be a fundable startup funding lab. And then after that, leadership lab. But don't just keep learning, don't binge learn, but also apply that in your business, right? Like as you learn it, you apply it and then you teach it and then you grow.
Yeah. Got it. Don't just do it for academic purposes. Parang ganyan, diba? Okay, I love it. And as we start wrapping up this discussion, it's been quite a journey for you. I always say it's a roller coaster, right? To be an entrepreneur, whatever your background was. And you had about 4 years right now being an entrepreneur. What are the key takeaways that you want to share also with other aspiring entrepreneurs who are in your place right now that you wish you knew when you were starting off the business that you want to pass on?
Okay, so one thing I would say is, had we known that we're going to share salaries for 3 years, we probably didn't start.
Okay.
But the journey is so worthwhile. Because if you are able to build a business that makes you feel like you're not working a single day of those 4 years, that would be the best ride of your life, right? Being able to create something and impact other people's lives is the best thing that you could have. And there's no work or there's no business that will not take a lot of hard work. If it isn't hard and if it comes easy, it's probably not going to last, right? And so you got to have you practice the faith and hope, right? But don't go in blindly. Like, don't go in without a plan. Calculated risks, but also just always don't also nakakain ka na ba ng pulburo na nagmadali? Masasamid ka, right? Like, chew only what you can bite only what you can chew, and just gain allies and take care of those relationships. May it be your teams, may it be your clients, your employees. And when you stay true to your value set, the same and the right people will be attracted to you and will be rallying you up towards your success. You will find your tribe.
Fantastic. Now I can see why you were one of the top 30 in LinkedIn right now. Truly inspirational. Thank you so much, Maria. Thanks for joining us over here. Remotify here on the RJ Ledesma Podcast. Just lastly, if somebody, if there's an employer or an employee who wants to use your services, where do they go?
Just visit us at www.remotify.ph and we will help you remotify your team.
Yeah, and with that, thanks so much, Maria. And thanks so much for listening to the RJ Ledesma Podcast. Thanks, guys.
The opinions of podcast creators, hosts, and guests are not necessarily reflective of the official stance of the Pod Network Entertainment, its hosts, or other network programs. The content created by the people behind the podcast is personal and not meant to harm any religion, ethnicity, group, organization, company, or individual.